another Between Two Bookshelves in quarantine here. And today we are going over the book Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. So what do you think, Ashley?
I absolutely loved it, actually. I hope you feel the same way. I liked it a lot. It was super interesting, and it really dove deep into a lot of psychological things and concepts that are applicable throughout your work environment, but also your everyday personal life, as far as being a leader just in your home, in your family, in your friend group. And so I've really liked it.
I would even extend it to being a decent person in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think this was necessarily leadership, because obviously the book is called Dare to Lead, so this is geared for leaders, but I think that everybody should be good, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this should be one of those textbooks where it's this should just be taught in school. People should understand how to. A lot of this book was about emotional connectivity, just how do you know your own feelings enough to be able to give it a name and then figure out what the problem is.
Yeah. And then also be able to communicate that after you've done that internally.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, actually, this morning when I was going back and reviewing some stuff in the book before this filming, I was on the same page. I was like, oh my gosh, every single person needs to read this, whether they're in high school and their soccer team and their team captain, or like you're saying, just anybody who wants to be a good person and understand how to communicate well. But it's so, like you're saying, also emotionally driven, and just that emotional intelligence. Do you think there's an age barrier to this book? People in high school, to me, that they'd be like, this book is so, I don't know, I feel like they wouldn't understand the importance of it quite yet.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think as far as, I don't know if it's an age barrier necessarily, but I know that when I am just now getting to the point where I'm starting to understand a lot of this. And a lot of the leaders that I look up to, it feels like they're already using a lot of this stuff. And so this book kind of connected a lot of dots for me. I would say that, this book had a lot of impact on me, and I'm almost 30 right now. I don't think, did it feel like it had good impact on you? Do you feel like you would have been able to digest this a couple of years ago?
Was that a question?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, but I don't think with the same intentionality. Maybe it's not an age barrier, but it's an intention barrier, because if you're not ready for it, then it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like applicability is really big in this book.
Yeah. I feel like it's horizontally it's very applicable, but yeah, maybe vertically there's a little bit of a gap there. I guess we can just jump right into our criteria, and we'll see what we kind of boil it out to be. Because that is a good question, and I wonder if you just read it once every 10 years, if it's yeah.
Do we want to? We kind of touched on it, but do we want to give a super brief summary? Do you want
to? Sure, yeah. So, Brene Brown, this book is, oh man, I don't know how to really summarize it. This book is sort of like a playbook on basically what she does when she goes into organizations and helps the leaders either connect, understand their people, grow, how to attack meetings, how to be efficient in communication. There's a lot of HR and administrative leadership behaviors that are kind of described, and then she goes into like a little bit of psychology, but more so just like techniques used to be like really good at what you do. And that's kind of how I would summarize it without like actually going into like the tactics that she broke down. Yeah, I think that's pretty solid. Did you want to add anything to it?
No, it sounded great.
Cool. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything in there. It's pretty extensive, which is one of the reasons why I think it's really good. So I guess if we jump into readability.
Yeah. For me, readability, it was super easy. I actually have a hard copy of the book, but before I realized I'd already this was a gift to me. Before I realized I'd been gifted this book, I had gotten the audio version as well. So there's some times that I would read it, and there's sometimes I'd listen to it, and then there was a time where I would listen to it and look at it at the same time, because this book is so quotable that I really valued having it in front of me and being able to highlight it. So readability was a solid 2 for me. It was super easy to read and to consume. There was a lot of storytelling. It was very personable. Like she felt like she was talking to you, especially on the audio. She like had like her voice like came up and came down, just like she was having a normal conversation with you. And so it was super readable for me.
Yeah, I definitely, that tracks. It was, the book was written like conversationally, I feel. And she strikes me absolutely as someone that I would just enjoy going to go watch too. Like she speaks, right? So I would totally go watch her. I mean, that it was just done like very well. And I listened to it on audiobook, so I did it through audio. And she had like little snippets where she kind of like brought in her own like mini examples, or like she would tell her stories. And so yeah, I think I'd give it like a I'm gonna give it a 1.9. I'm gonna give it a 1.9.
What do you think about the relevance?
This is a flat 2, easy. I kind of feel like this book was like a spirit guide for me. Like I think I'm gonna have my girlfriend read it so that she understands me better.
Yeah.
So like I just really I really thought it was super relevant. Everybody should read it.
Yes.
I almost don't. I almost like, to your question earlier, you were kind of questioning like age gaps. I almost feel like it should just be like people should read it early and then like middle and then late in their lives maybe, and they'll probably get different things from it. Because there was so much that, not necessarily stuff that I learned. I feel like a lot of role models and a lot of people in like power leadership people, like I'm thinking of like Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm thinking of like, I mean, some huge dudes, not necessarily like an idol, but Jeff Bezos. And then I take a look at like Bill Gates. Some of these people like are using this. And in fact, she brings up Melinda Gates a lot. And a lot of this vibes with my kind of leadership style, but there were a lot of gaps and there were a lot of things that I couldn't name until I read this book. And I didn't realize why I did certain things, and I didn't realize why I thought the leaders that I look up to do certain things. And this book really helped me clarify that. Super relevant. I don't care if you're a leader or not. I think you should read it.
So what was the score on that one? Did I miss it?
2 flat.
2. Okay. Yeah. You're frozen for me at the beginning. You're frozen like this. So I was like, oh, I couldn't hear in the very beginning.
Did you hear me? Okay.
I have to agree. Whenever I was reading this book, I was also thinking about, I'm married, so my marriage, and wanting Kane to read this book, and so we could better communicate. Because, like, really, if you think about it, our marriage is like a business, and like problem solving and things like that. And so I really liked it for that reason. And I think it's super relevant as far as being able to be a leader in any capacity, whether it's a big time leader role as a CEO of a huge company, or if it's a really small leading role as like a startup, an entrepreneur, and trying to communicate that to the people who invest in you and who encourage you. And so I just think it's really relevant across the board. I did give it a 1.5 because I like this book so much. I didn't want to give it a perfect 10, so I felt like I had to dock some points somewhere.
Gotta be a little critical in some places.
Yeah, I gave it a 1.5, and I think part of that, she references her other books a lot, but she does explain everything in this book that you need to know, so you don't feel like left out. But I feel like had I read her books before, this could have been even more powerful for me. So, but that's on me. That's not on her.
Score. I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah. Applicability.
I think in a lot of ways this goes a little bit hand in hand with the relevance. She did give a lot of resources to her website, where she has like a lot of documents. A lot of it was just like, I feel like so much of this is just like a muscle that you need to train.
Yeah.
And even she was saying in the book, it's like you're not committing to do this now. You're committing to fail a couple times and start getting good at it. And so, and I thought that was like really solid. There's in a lot of ways, like I think she's trying to make it very applicable. And it makes you almost want to work with her because you're like, oh my God, this is so good. I know that I could take this so far. But she's like a legend. It almost like sells you on Brene like so well, without you. Like there was no modicum of sales at all in this book, and it made you just want to like work with her and understand her better. And I think it's because she does open up a lot, and she does she's very intentional, and she provides like a lot of ways to kind of attack different scenarios. As far as applicability, I'm going to give it a... I'll give it like a... I'll give it that 1.9 again, actually. I'm going to hit 1.9 because I thought they gave you every opportunity to make it happen, but I think there's a little bit just kind of holding it back as far as maybe personnel or, you do have to kind of work at it. And it's a muscle, and that kind of, this book made me actually realize a lot about like the importance of consistency and just working things out, like trying just to work it out, like work out the muscle for a lot of these things. And it made me, one of my favorite quotes is, the purpose of leadership is to create other leaders. And so this book made me, and this maybe fills a little bit into the butterfly effect, but this book made me want to push further for like the organization that we're in right now, So as far as to create other leaders inside of the organization and have a organization that a leadership-oriented organization, I guess. So it felt like it wasn't out of range, and there was a lot of steps put in place. But I do think that there was a little bit of like, this might be too big kind of feel. Too big for my britches, So I'll give it a 1.9.
Cool. So I think it was super applicable as well. In the foreword, she talks about all of, like you said, the resources that she has on her website, and there's actually, I believe, a free workbook that you can fill out while reading the book hand in hand that I think would actually help in the applicability range. Oh my gosh, I can't say that word. And so I didn't do that. I wish I had, and I may go back after this and try it or see if I can fill it out after the fact. But for me, I gave applicability a 1.5, and that's just because I feel like the book is so, and I don't mean to say weighed down in a negative way, but weighed down with so much great information that it's a little bit overwhelming to try to apply everything. Do I think it's doable? Yes, and that's why I give it a 1.5. But like, I have it bookmarked here. This page in the book, this is where it shows all of the basically like bad versions of leadership versus good versions of leadership.
I love that. Yeah.
Like how they mirrored each other. And this, I like could have spent days just on this portion and like breaking it down and like translating it into what it meant for my life and how I could apply it to my life. And so like, that's why I'm giving it a 1.5, because it has so much great stuff, but you really have to be motivated to apply it just because it's overwhelmingly a lot. Cool. We have value versus expectation as our 4th out of 5 rankings. I give it 2. Just saw 2 because I loved it so much. I'd obviously been gifted the book, so there was a reason for that. So usually when somebody gives you a book, they kind of give it to you for a reason. They
Who
think
gave
you might
it to
like
you?
it. My mother-in-law.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and she's a businesswoman. She taught at a university in business school, and so I think I don't know if she's actually read it though. I think it just sounded good. But it exceeded my expectations. I was really happy because we've been reading a lot from male authors, and so it's always really nice to have like the female perspective as well. And so my expectation was like middle ground, like I wanted it to be good and I expected it to be good, especially from all of the reviews that I had read. But then the value just overflowed completely. So I think I give it a 2.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, hyper valuable. I feel like she spelled out so much stuff. Like just critically thinking over it. I'm very much, when I'm reading, I'm very much a critical thinker in that I try to like assign separate meanings. I try to synthesize what I've already learned and understand how this kind of relates to like next steps or previous steps and where this kind of fits into my life. I mean, this book, other than it being on the bestseller list, I think it was a bestseller, right?
Yeah.
I had never heard of it, and pretty blown away. I'm gonna give it a 1.5. I feel like this is the great equalizer score because it's like if it was really valuable and no one talks about it, then it's like, why haven't I heard about it? But yeah, so I'm gonna give it a 1.5. Brene is like Wonder Woman to me right now. She's like a legend for sure, and I feel like I definitely need to reread it. There was so much value in this book. Obviously, it was a bestseller. I've heard Brene Brown before, so that's why I'm kind of landing on that score. It's good because of its high value. I have heard of it before. I wasn't expecting too much, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm glad it turned out that way. It wasn't like a complete underdog. Like Plan D, I think Plan D I gave it 2 because no one knew what it was. It wasn't on any list. We just randomly picked it from somewhere, and it turned out to be a legendary book. This one had a little bit of precedence. Hyper valuable though. So. Last criteria, butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect.
Oh baby, I don't know. I'm really excited. This is what I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about rereading this book. I'm really excited about going through this again and putting together a game plan. It's kind of like the one thing I was really excited about sitting down and getting my life together. Basically. I'm kind of up there with this. There's a couple reservations. Some of it I feel like I'm already doing, right? This is kind of like my spirit animal, like how I behave just in general, like as far as like negativity goes, as far as like I always give people the benefit of the doubt, and like I always think everyone has positive intentions rather than negative intentions, and it's just like who I am as a person. So some of it I feel like I was kind of already doing. Some of it, like just reading through the book once, helped me put names to things and help me understand why I don't judge people and why I don't do certain things. And so it made me kind of like understand what only years of the being raised the way I was raised, and I just happened to get lucky. So there was kind of like a little bit of a mix here. I think I'm gonna give it like a 1 point, maybe like a 1.65.
You're so funny with your numbers. I give mine like a quarter, a half, 3/4.
I'm going with my gut here. 1.65. Very excited to apply it. Very excited to tell people about it. Very excited to reread it. And I think that's where I need to dock the points, is because I know that I'm just going to have to I know that I need to get better at this, and I'm going to need to read it several times to like keep instilling it inside of myself. And so that's why I think that it's not like a perfect 2. I am excited to apply it, but I think there are a little bit of gaps here that I need to like kind of address and go through.
Yeah. Well, and obviously you guys have probably inferred this already, but if you've never watched this before, the butterfly effect is like, do you get excited after reading this book? Are you ready to start and let's go? Does it get you pumped? And AKA, does it give you butterflies in your stomach? So for me, I am a little bit farther than middle of the road excited. I agree with you. I am looking forward to rereading it because I think, like you said, with the one thing, delivering happiness even, this book, Dare to Lead, Plan D, all of the books that we've like ranked really high, I think the first read is just eye-opening. You're like, oh, okay. And like you're saying, it just like connects the dots. And then maybe going through it number 2 or number 3, time number 2 or 3, is when you actually start to be able to digest it a little bit better and maybe have those like long-lasting things that you end up applying to your life. So it does get me excited, and I also am excited, like you were saying, Antonio, to refer it to other people, because I feel like when you have a good book in your back pocket, it just makes you like seem like you're on top of things, or I don't know. And so I'm excited to give other people a chance to read this book, or at least know that it comes highly recommended, and give them some expectation to compare their value to. So for me, I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, solid book. So my total score was 8.95.
It's really high. Mine's 8.5.
That's I think that might be one of our higher ranked books, and I absolutely stand by that. Honestly, I was like, this was kind of like Delivering Happiness, where it's like I was afraid I was going to give it a 10. Because literally it was just really good. And I feel like everybody I come in contact with, I was like, man, I need to have a hiring process that before people get hired, they need to read this book and pass a test. And they just like, before I even come in contact with people, they need to know this book. I can't speak to my family unless they've read this book. I can't. So super solid book. I gotta figure out how to refer this more.
Who is it that they have, like, one of their interview questions, it asks about a particular book, and if you haven't read it, they won't hire you? Who were you telling me that does that?
About a particular book?
I don't know. You told me somebody does that, so it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I mean that's definitely a good way to like pre-frame the culture, and I've kind of been thinking of that honestly for like a couple books, where it's just like these are like foundational things that are drivers for culture, and like either you're on board with the culture and you understand the direction that we're coming from, or you don't. And I feel like this is one of those books that's like very much a culture driver. She was saying she goes into organizations and she helps people just understand how to communicate. And one of the big things, it wasn't mentioned that much, but it's kind of one of the real core reasons why people kind of lead with empathy and why people need to communicate like this is culture. Vulnerability so that you can share. I mean, Plan D wouldn't be possible if people didn't feel like they could be disruptors, or bring up their ideas. And so a lot of this is kind of like foundational. Like, are you going to be catty with your coworkers? Are you going to this is so like, how about we remove all of that BS that comes up in big corporations and why people hate working at big corporations? And it's because nobody gets along, or people think they're better than other people, and there's no collaborative, and you feel like you're stuck in your space, and it's just like a quagmire. I feel like this is like the anti-corporate quagmire.
So. Yeah. I really liked this book, and I'm happy that it got on our list. It was actually on the extra add-on list, so it wasn't part of our original.
Ooh, nice.
So
benefits of doubling up.
After the fact, we recently doubled the amount of books that we're going to be doing, which is a bit overwhelming, especially when we have such a compact book like this. But I'm super happy that we added it. But our next book is going to be The Execution Factor by Kim Perrell. So I hope that one's good. I have a feeling I don't have very high not that I don't have very high expectations. I don't have many expectations for this book. But to me, it feels like kind of the book that emphasizes and explains, like, everyone has great ideas, but who actually executes? And do you have the execution factor? Yeah. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. We didn't get our, maybe for the edited version, we didn't do any of our, what am I thinking of? Our announcements at the beginning. So for those of you who don't know, we post on Facebook. We get our edited shots and everything on YouTube. We are on Twitch, and you can subscribe to us. A lot of the things that we're doing here, we are donating to Room to Read. So if you see an Amazon link, it's to buy the book. Basically, we get like a small portion. I think it's just a couple percentage of the book. And all of our profits go to Room to Read. We think it's a really good organization, and basically it helps equal education as far as like gender and sex goes, but also equal education as in we're giving people the books they need to be educated, right? And so it's a really good organization that we think follows this sort of book review pretty well. And I think maybe we do like a little static intro, Ashley. Maybe from now on we'll do like a little static intro with just some general announcements. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But solid. I think it's pretty good.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's Between Two Bookshelf. We really enjoyed the book, and we think you will too. So like Attilio mentioned, down below are the links to this book, and also our link for our next book that we're going to read if you want to read alongside us and see if your opinions match up with ours. So we'll catch you next time, guys.